The standard map of human history often attributes global migration and maritime navigation to a single species, modern Homo sapiens. We tend to view the ability to cross oceans and settle distant islands as a skill we alone possessed. But the physical record suggests our predecessors were navigating these same environments long before us. In Apodema Cave on the southern coast of Greece, researchers found two distinct skull fragments. One was a modern human from 210,000 years ago. The other was a Neanderthal fragment from 170,000 years ago. Both species sought shelter in the same limestone cliffs, separated only by time. Further east, on the island of Luzon in the Philippines, the evidence is even older. Archaeologists discovered a butchered rhinoceros skeleton surrounded by stone tools, proving that an archaic human species was active on the island 709,000 years ago. Similar traces appear on the island of Crete, where 130,000-year-old stone tools were found scattered across the landscape. These tools are specifically identified as achulean, heavy, teardrop-shaped hand axes and cleavers. This specific toolkit belongs to the million-year-old tradition of our ancestors, like Homo erectus. By the time modern humans reached this region, they were using more refined, specialized tools, making these heavy axes a signature of an archaic presence. The geography of these sites presents a problem. Both Crete and Luzon have been isolated by deep ocean trenches for millions of years. Unlike many other islands, they were never connected to the mainland, even when sea levels were at their lowest. This creates a historical paradox. It suggests that archaic hominins were successfully crossing deep water barriers hundreds of thousands of years before the invention of the complex boats we once thought were required. The mechanism behind these ancient movements was the Earth's climate. During the Pleistocene glaciations, the planet entered a 100,000-year cycle, oscillating between periods of deep freezing and relative warmth. During cold cycles, water was locked into continental ice caps, dropping global sea levels by 125 meters, taller than the Statue of Liberty. This transformed shallow seas into walkable plains, like the sprawling Sunderland Shelf, linking mainland Asia to Java, Borneo, and Sumatra. The Beringian land bridge was equally massive, a 1,000-kilometer-wide tundra plain connecting Siberia to Alaska, covering an area the size of Florida and Georgia combined. This shifting geography allowed species like Homo erectus to simply walk out of Africa and across the Near East. They followed migrating animals across exposed savannas, reaching Indonesia by land roughly 1.8 million years ago. But these land bridges were temporary. When the ice melted, the oceans rose, flooding the lowlands and turning those vast plains back into separate islands. Populations of Homo erectus found themselves stranded on these new islands, cut off from the mainland for tens of thousands of years at a time. This cycle of isolation and reconnection acted as a driver for evolution. The constant pressure to adapt to these shifting boundaries shaped the survival strategies of human ancestors for hundreds of thousands of years. Even at the height of the ice ages, certain deep water barriers remained. The Wallace Line, an ocean trench in Indonesia, stayed impassable on foot even when sea levels were at their lowest. This leads to two theories. Either archaic humans were swept across these trenches accidentally on rafts of storm-tossed vegetation, or they were intentionally building primitive watercraft. Navigation in these chains didn't require sailing into the unknown. Because many of these islands are mountainous, their peaks remain visible even from a distance, allowing for line-of-sight navigation where the destination is always in view. In Oceania, volcanic peaks rise up to 3,700 meters. From one island shore, the height of the next ensures a clear target on the horizon. By 70,000 years ago, modern Homo sapiens began a new sustained expansion. Once again, they were aided by the climate. Around 50,000 years ago, monsoonal rains turned parts of the Arabian desert into green corridors filled with freshwater lakes. These temporary hospitable environments allowed our ancestors to move quickly through regions that would be impassable today. They eventually reached Sahul, the landmass of Australia and New Guinea, which required crossing substantial stretches of open water. Indigenous Australian genetics show no signs of a severe bottleneck, which would occur if only a few survivors reached the continent. Instead, high genetic diversity suggests the colonization of Sahul was the result of a large, intentional migration involving hundreds or even thousands of people. The end of the last ice age brought a violent transition. As the glaciers melted, millions of gallons of meltwater rapidly raised sea levels. 8,200 years ago, a massive underwater landslide known as the Storga Slide occurred off the coast of Norway. The resulting tsunami flooded the remaining lowlands of Doggerland in a single generation. This event permanently severed the land connection to the continent, turning Britain into an island. For the people living along these coasts, the experience of watching entire landscapes vanish beneath the waves was a transformative trauma. These events correlate with the enduring presence of flood stories in oral traditions across the globe, such as the myth of the sinking of Atlantis. Generations of hunting grounds and coastal settlements were lost to the tide, leaving the maps of the ancient world buried under the sea. Between 5,000 and 3,000 years ago, the Austronesian and Polynesian peoples developed a new approach to the sea. They moved beyond line-of-sight navigation, using the stars, bird flight paths, and swell patterns to cross thousands of miles of open water. By 1200 CE, they had reached the coast of South America. They returned to the Pacific with the sweet potato, a calorie-dense crop that had been cultivated by Native Americans for 5,000 years. This exchange represents a meeting between two sophisticated technologies, high seas navigation and advanced agricultural engineering. The map of the Earth we recognize today is only a temporary snapshot. As our coastlines continue to shift, it reminds us that much of our history is currently hidden beneath the waves, waiting to be recovered.